Welcome to another episode of Inside Canadian Real Estate. We are back with the podcast, video, audio, everything. It's been 2 years. So we're going to call this Inside Canadian Real Estate 2.0. And this time we have a different format, different topics. I think it's going to be a lot better than the last time. To be honest, I had made a pause for those of you that remember. I know there's a bunch of you following the podcast because I just got really, really busy. But I found a way to make this a lot better, a lot more streamlined, better content. And honestly, there's so much going on in the world right now that I feel like I just can't not talk about it. The real estate world, business, all of it. And to help me do that, I'm bringing on a new co-host you're going to see a lot more regularly on these episodes. Mr. Matteo, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Matteo Cancian. It is a pleasure to be here with you, Darren. I guess I'm a good friend, family friend now of Darren here, fellow real estate uh, aficionado of sorts, from resale to knowledge of pre-construction to developments, etc. And just, I think we both have a pretty good grip on the culture as well. And I think that's going to be the secret sauce of this podcast specifically, and how that intersects with topics within Canadian real estate. So if you're someone who lives in this country, has a stake in this country, has a future in it, I think we're going to have a good time with it, and maybe even say things that a lot of people haven't heard out loud necessarily, or as exquisitely as it should be said. So I'm really looking forward to it. Really some cutting edge stuff I think we're going to be covering even today specifically.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun with it. And for those of you that are maybe new to the podcast, welcome. Quick backstory on the podcast and both me and Matteo here. But basically, I started this podcast back in like 2023. The idea was go deep on Canadian real estate, but not just real estate the way that a lot of podcasts do, the broader, bigger picture. So we're talking economy, we're talking politics, we're talking all kinds of stuff, and just as real as we can. This podcast is not about making money. It's not about running ads. It's not about selling any sort of product or service or AI tool that I have, which a lot of people are doing. Nothing against that. That's not what this is. This is passion. This is like, real estate's a wild ride. Me and Matteo are both super passionate about it. He's just as passionate as I am. And we wanted to make this podcast really to just bring that information as raw, as real, as unbiased, without, like, I hate nothing more. I don't think there's a person on this planet that consumes more real estate podcast content than I do. And my biggest pet peeve is the ads. It's like, but the podcasts have become more an ad than anything else. Everyone's selling a course, a product, a calculator, a tool, an event. Like, I have nothing. I just want to talk about real estate, talk about talk about politics, talk about business, talk about the things that affect you as a Canadian, an investor, whatever it is. That's what we're here for. And quick background on me and Matteo. So we're both licensed real estate agents, first and foremost. That is very much our day job. And I think we're pretty good at it. So we both do fairly well. We are both working out of the same brokerage, which is now CV Real Estate. For those of you that don't know, is a boutique brokerage out of Muskoka that has recently rebranded and is expanding across all markets. We're in Toronto, Simcoe County, Muskoka. More on that after. And behind that, I'll let Matteo go into his background, but beyond being real estate agents, I'm a real estate investor. And so I was actually running a marketing agency for almost a decade prior to getting to real estate. And in that time period, any extra money, extra cash flow, my thing was invest in real estate. That's how I got into it. So we've done hundreds of house flips. I've tried everything back in the day, the Burr method stuff. We did buy and hold, did all this, but more recently into commercial real estate. So buying, holding, renovating, repurposing, value add commercial real estate. That's a big part of my game now. And that's what I do. So I'm really in this, living it on the sales side, on the investment side, on the ownership side, all of it. And so that's the context I'm bringing to this. And Matteo has a bit more of a creative background as well. So I'll let you share that too, just so people know who you are and who they're listening to.
Yeah, so we do work at the same brokerage. It'll be an interesting year to see how that plays out, because I think it's a bit of there's a unique angle we're taking with it, and it's early, so we'll see how it goes, but very excited about that. Yeah, 29 years old. I have a wife, a child. I own a home. I live in Vaughan, but I know downtown Toronto like the back of my hand. I know all of York Region like the back of my hand. I am getting more excited about the prospect of Simcoe and the Muskoka areas as well. So that's something that's on my radar. And like Darren said, practicing realtor now, I think for just over 5 years. I've done a fair amount of business, have learned the ins and outs, have a lot of different opinions and perspectives, working with just such a broad variety of different clients, or a really wide diversity. And then in addition to that, I also have a service business that is very real estate adjacent. So property maintenance for anything from residential homes to commercial buildings to high-rise condominiums, office complexes, things of that nature. So it's not just strictly the angle of like your typical realtor, let's say, that I might have background on or knowledge in. So hoping to provide maybe a bit of a unique perspective in that regard as well.
Yeah. And so long story short, we're both entrepreneurial. We both have entrepreneurial business backgrounds, and we ended up in real estate as a byproduct of that because we love it. And that's where we're at. So without
And
further
the
ado,
reason we're friends, by the way, the reason
yes,
that this is like a good synergy is just because we have, I think, the same sort of mindset. We have the same, very similar opinions on kind of the direction this country should be going in, the way it's heading, where it is right now from where it was. And so just over the years, we've never directly, I think, let's say worked with each other, but we've always been in talks of like, how do we do something because we're cut from the same cloth. You know what I mean?
yeah,
We're both,
no, 100%, 100%. So on that note and with that context, let's jump into it. Today's episode, anytime you see Matteo here, it's a good indication that we're going to be going into things that are happening in the markets in the world, and we're not just doing like super local, like, hey, here's what's happening in Toronto. No, it's like what's happening in the world, how's that going to affect everything, and we're going to go through basically the big headlines, like not just from today, but like this week, but they're all topical things in the last week or two even, but stuff that's big that is still ongoing. And what we'll try to do anytime you see Matteo here on these episodes is like cover the top 3 or 4 like big issues. What is going on? We're going to talk about them. In some cases, we both know what's going on. In some cases, one of us knows, and we're just going to go back and forth. And so you're going to see it in real time, and you're going to see us explore these topics, not just present them to you. And so we're going to jump into that because the world is, it's getting kind of crazy. And so let's just jump right into the things that are going on today. We got a few things. The first one that I've been meaning to talk about on social for a while, I just haven't had the time to dive into it, which is why I'm not doing the podcast, is this crazy thing happening in Vancouver. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, I've read the headlines. I haven't dived into it too much. I have a kind of gut level instinctive opinion on these things, but I'll let you get into the particulars because I don't want to misspeak too soon.
Yeah, so basically, and keep in mind, we're not professionals here, so I'm going to mess stuff up. But my understanding generally of what's been going on is Ottawa signed what they're calling like a rights recognition agreement. I can't say the name of the tribe they signed this with, but it's the Musqueam tribe, I guess. But they held historical rights over land in what is a massive part of Vancouver. Like this is not, it's a very large part of Metro Vancouver, including like the actual city of Vancouver itself, large pieces of it. And so this isn't just some like fringe rural deal where they've given title into some random park in North British Columbia. This covers like almost or over 2 million homes. So this affects over 2 million families potentially, and it sets a new precedent in what really does land title mean, because all these people previously that own homes here, they own title, they own their home, right? Now suddenly they don't, despite the fact that the government is trying to say like, hey, it's not really, it's just kind of a formality, it's almost ceremonial, it kind of overlaps with other claims in title, and it's not going to, they're not taking your house, but also you kind of are, because it's changing the entire, like if you're an investor right now, if you're a mortgage lender, if you're a bank and you have to lend on these properties, or if you're an insurer trying to insure these properties, you don't know what's going on, which probably means you don't want to lend, you don't want to do renewals, you don't want to support new purchases. And if you can't get insurance and a mortgage, you can't get a house. And so the trickle down effect here is absolutely wild. And so I'm trying to figure out what this means for Canada and the rest of the broader market. But I'm curious on your initial thoughts, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to discuss, and I think the key part here that I think is the succinct takeaway for, let's say, the average person is knowing that just from our synopsis here, we have it reading verbatim. Federal government is stressing that the agreement does not change fee simple private property rights today. However, it's framed as a general recognition plus a framework for, keyword here, future negotiations on how, where, and to what extent title is applied. Right. And so in today's terms, what does that mean? There's like this vague uncertainty as to what the practical legal implications for something like this are. Right. So I know we were talking about this before, but you were saying that there were some developers or maybe there were some underwriters. Obviously, this news broke. And as a result of that, there were some development plans that changed. There was some financing conditions maybe that fell through, something along those lines. Right. So in the one sense, it is this like vague thing, like, yes, it's they use the buzzwords, right? It's a framework for a general understanding, and it's this kind of, okay, like what does that actually mean, sort of thing? Like, do First Nations individuals have the right to come to the house that I bought 2 years ago in this land and say, hey, buddy, this is mine now? Like, probably not, right? But again, for future considerations, what does this mean for development? What does this mean for financing? What does this mean for really the average individual? It's almost like the onslaught of AI right now, where there's this future cloud that we're predicting and seeing coming in of like, oh my gosh, this thing is coming. We don't know exactly what it is yet, but we know it's a storm's brewing there, let's say, right? And there's different people that are going to say it's like the biggest thing in the world. it's going to radically change absolutely everything. And then there's others that say, it's a cloud, it'll pass. Like that's, it's just another headline, right? So I think for the average layperson, it's something to watch out for now, or just keep an eye out for. Certainly, we'll see more news about it in the coming years. I do know, like, just throwing this back at you, you can speak to something like that. It was like underwriting or financing, something like that, or some kind of development plans that totally changed as a direct result of this news.
Yeah, there was a bunch. And it's funny, like when you talk about a cloud, like the passing storm here, it's like I thought that the first time I heard about this Aboriginal title stuff, which was that deal they did last year. But you looked at it and you're like, it's a couple thousand homes, like this rural part of BC. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then they're like, no, now it's 2 million homes, Metro Vancouver. Then I found out, like officially, unofficially, apparently there's court claims all over Canada, by the way, right now. And this is simultaneously in courts, private, I guess, arbitration, negotiation, whatever they're working through, where multiple tribes across multiple provinces are currently arguing with the federal government and provincial governments on trying to make additional land claims. So it doesn't seem like this is like the last one. It seems like this is one of many more to come. And I think until they give us a real framework of what this means, because to me, it looks like, yeah, okay, it doesn't affect your property rights today, but also this to me looks like displacement, like everything else that the federal government does. It's like there's a group of people in an area we don't want. And typically that is non-liberal voters. You don't vote for us, we want you out. And they target these very high net worth neighborhoods, pass laws like this that make it a place you don't want to live, whether it's like increased crime or it's title affecting your house or just some form of economic instability. They make it like, hey, we don't want you here anymore, leave. And then new people come through, make it more appealing to them, more rights for these newcomers that are coming into that land. And let's make it a place that looks completely different than it did for the last 60 years. For whatever reason, that seems to me like what they're doing. This is displacement. Because if I lived there right now, I'd be like, how do I get out? How do I sell my house before this gets worse or before they pass the next? Like, what is that next? Like they said, it's a framework and they're negotiating further. What's coming next? Like, what are they going to tell me? Am I going to have to pay a new form of property tax to these Aboriginal communities that laundered $300 billion over the last like 20 years? Like, are they going to take more of my money? And also part of this deal, by the way, they included more control over BC fisheries. So all these industries that were also like leading economic producers in BC, they're now getting a hand in, a much larger hand. They've had a hand before, but a much larger hand. And so all these things are happening where basically more money, more power, and more control is going back to these Aboriginal communities, which were already taking hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer dollars. It's not like they've been neglected. The problem is that money's been laundered, disappeared, never helped the community. So now we're entrusting the same communities and the same leadership with this, right? And so to our point of like what was affected. So for example, there was a $200 million residential development in Vancouver that allegedly I had heard was shut down because financing was pulled. So they were still in early stage construction financing. And the lenders looked at it like, we don't know after this decision how this is going to impact this entire deal, how it will affect your price. And all this like construction financing is all pro forma based. It's like, what's this worth when it's done? But we have no idea now because we don't know what's happening with title. So they pulled financing. And at the same time, there's basically this like native co-op, I guess, development corporation, which is called MST Development. And they're leading a multi-billion-dollar high-density project in this same area. And so the developers that were building that were non-Aboriginal developers are now shut down and wiped out from that project. And at the same time, suddenly this multi-billion-dollar like development is going to be pushed through again to profit this Aboriginal. And it's not Aboriginal communities. Everyone thinks it's about Aboriginal communities. It's not. It's like it's leadership, it's key people at the top, just like every other corrupt political organization, like skimming this. They're the ones making the money off these deals. It's not, the people will still have no clean water. They'll still have like lead in their drinking water. They'll still have no housing. They'll still have alcohol problems, like their community will not improve. But like the 40 people at the top will. They'll make billions. And that's like my whole problem with this. And why to me, it's this is not about helping Aboriginal communities. This is about key people getting rich that are supportive of the liberal governments that pass this nonsense.
Yeah, it's just, this is like such like typically Canadian news. And like it's becoming so frequent, like the same type of thing happening over and over again, where it's like at some point, like there's going to be like a Canadian news headline AI that can generate stuff like this. And it's going to be like the most like real sounding stuff, right? It's like something that we have a lot here these days is whether you call it a cultural, religious, or ethnic groups that kind of try to exert their influence on the term being used loosely, let's say, right? But on Canadian land for furthering of their own, whatever, cultural, ethnic, religious religious. It's just one of many headlines you're going to read like this over the years as it just becomes more and more relevant. That's the Canadian identity, right? We're like an economic zone. We don't really have like a national identity, right? And to the extent that we do, it's whatever the other is, you can just kind of do it here in your like enclave, right? And so that's how you get headlines like this. That's how you get a lot of the kind of modern Canadian culture in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's true. I call it like suicide by empathy. We've become such an incredibly empathetic. It's like, yeah, help everybody, but us at the cost of destroying Canadians that have actually been here forever. It's like we deserve nothing, everyone else deserves everything, and that's the premise of this entire policy. But
Yeah,
anyway,
and even like if you're like a super well-meaning person, housing affordability is like, take it from us. How old are you? You're 31?
yeah,
31. I'm 29. Housing affordability is everything for literally our entire age demographic, right? It's for our age group, it's the number one most important thing because we're at the age where like if you haven't already started the family yet, like it's pretty much on your mind, or like the next step, like how do I get closer to that, right? How do I get home ownership? How do I get that like certainty in life? How do I build that quality of life, right? And so when you hear news like this, if you hear that, like people were trying to build, but now they cannot because of uncertainty. Well, hopefully eventually they'll build, but that uncertainty comes at a cost, right? And so it's just more expensive real estate, a higher barrier to entry, a higher barrier to start putting shovels in the ground and building homes and building out neighborhoods.
yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, it's a shame that often the most empathetic approach to a problem is rarely the one that solves the problem. And so that's to our disadvantage because always the solutions that sound the best usually are the worst. And that
Oh, of
just is
course,
what it is.
yeah, yeah.
It's like weight loss. No one wants to hear like, hey, and like take it from someone that just lost like 54 pounds. It's like, you don't want to hear, you're just overeating. Eat less, exercise more. No one wants that. They want to hear that it's genetic and it's their thyroid and you just have to, no, it's
Ozempic.
just reading more,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I don't know. I like a part of me with news like this, because when you first read the headlines, like claims to land, claims to title, things like that, and you get all the initial skeptics that freak out and go, oh, like, they're just gonna kick you out of your house. It's gonna be a forced sale, something like that. Something like that is probably to me, it just seems like it's so extreme and so quick that it's like, even if they actually went for this and they tried to enact this practically, it would just get knocked down right away. I think
Yeah.
it was in the Netherlands or Norway. They tried to implement the unrealized capital gains tax. This
Netherlands,
sounds
I
like a
think.
tangent, but it's not.
Yeah.
They tried to implement an unrealized capital gains tax. So let's say you held an investment for a year, it went up, but you didn't sell it, you didn't realize that gain. They try to tax it in that year, right? Before you even go and sell the asset. And it's like something like that is just theoretically so ridiculous. It passed in their Senate, it was enacted into law, and then like 6 weeks later they repealed it. They're like, actually, yeah, we can't do this.
Yeah. Yeah. It
So
was.
I don't know. Like to me, like especially in a world of headlines today where things like this happen, like I'm sure there will be some absolute nonsense that comes downstream of it. But for the average person, like when you hear something like this, do you have to freak out about it right now in this moment? To me, it's something to be concerned about. Like if I'm a buyer in an area where this just happened, yeah, it kind of freaks me out a little bit. Right. If I'm a
Yeah.
developer, yeah, I'd be crapping myself. What does it mean for, like, let's say this framework was enacted on, where are we? March 12th. Let's say it was enacted March 1st, and you're going to start building, and title's going to transfer, and you're going to start building March 5th. You own that land as of March 5th. Well, it was 4 days after that framework came in. Yeah, I'd probably be a little nervous.
That's what I mean. It's never a direct, like these policies are never a direct, like we're taking your house. Just like it never starts like that. It's just little things that the ripple effect does make it harder for you to do the things you need to do. Like in that
Yeah.
case, like, yes, it's
And
now harder to
we live
build.
on like a slippery slope. Like it's just a
Right.
matter of time until it becomes that, right? And
Well,
this is the first step
for example,
towards
it's
that.
not gonna, if you own a house there, you're not getting kicked out. But here's a question. Do you want to buy a house there right now? Would you?
Would I personally, all else being equal, if there's nothing drawing me to the neighborhood, it's a factor that pushes me away from it. All else
Right.
being
Because
equal.
you just don't know. And then even if you did, like, would the bank finance the same way? And would your insurer insure it the same way until
Of
we
course,
have an official
exactly.
decision? So it's going to
Exactly.
create some sort of stagnation, which will affect the price of your home. And if you live there, that's going to bother you. And maybe it's going to change your decision. Like, it's all about getting us to where they want to get us, but like without directly forcing the hand. It's just
It's
like,
It's just another increment on the
Yeah,
scale of going from a high trust society to a low trust society. It's like, do I really even own the land that
yeah,
I purchased and put my life savings towards, and I risked a ton of
exactly.
a ton of my net worth on, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, if I want to go like tin hat conspiracy, right? It's like if the whole theory was like you heard all conspiracies of like they don't want private ownership, the whole WEF,
Yeah,
you'll own nothing and
you'll
be
own
happy.
nothing.
Okay. If that 2030 plan is real and the goal is like let's move away from private ownership, how do you get there? You don't just take the houses, you continue to encroach on private ownership until the individual decides maybe it's not worth it anymore. Maybe by
Yeah.
my own conclusion, I don't want to own a house because you guys keep messing with title, with taxes, with this, with that. I don't want to do it anymore. And so they're trying to push you to your own conclusion. And it's just like the gun bans. Like the gun bans didn't start with like, you can't have guns. It starts with
Yeah.
like, oh, you have to register these in a different way. And then it's like, okay, you have a handgun, you can keep them, but you can't transfer them and you can't sell them and no one else can have them. And then it's like, oh, and if you have these, you can keep them in your house, but you can't take them out anymore. And just slowly, slowly, slowly until you just don't do it. And so I think they're doing the same thing right now. I think there's a legitimate attack on real estate. And so for better or worse, I mean, as an investor, it creates an opportunity because definitely there's buying opportunities. If you have the risk appetite and you want to bet against this and think it's not going to actually go through in any substantial way, now is a good time to make those plays and to move into
Mm-hmm.
areas where everyone are fearful of doing, right? And take those gambles. But for me, it's just frustrating to see it. I'm sure for a lot of homeowners in the area, it's frustrating. And the question, like, we do a bunch of residential investment in Ontario, and we keep joking, but not joking with each other of like, how long until we see that in Aurelia? How long until it comes across Midland? How long until a big chunk of Muskoka somehow gets swallowed up? And like, we just don't know. And so it's creating uncertainty that now you either have to push through, but a lot of people aren't. They're just waiting to see what's going to happen. And that waiting creates issues. Like we already have a slow market. We already have like prices declining for what, 3 years in a row now. It's a total
Yeah.
buyer's market. You can't sell inventory. And now you're creating even more uncertainty, right? So
Yeah,
that's not,
I'll
not
give you a
good.
theoretical example just to kind of echo what you're saying, right? So again, just looking at the synopsis here, Ottawa signed a rights recognition agreement. Okay, well, what do rights imply? This is like this is a classic thought experiment. So if one party has rights, what that really means is that another party has obligations. Okay, and so if you're, let's say, this authority, this body that has these rights, what do you have a right to? Okay, well, maybe it's not necessarily the land. You can snap your fingers and everybody's got to go by a certain date. Do you have the right to levy a tax because you have some kind of authority over the land, your own special judicial, because it's your jurisdiction now in some kind of way, right? And so absolutely, like to your point, like um I think if you look at the word rights and if you dig deep into that term, yeah, like you can start to paint a pretty nasty picture of where this could go in a couple of years.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, we'll leave that one at that and let people make their
Rights for
decision.
one person is another person's obligation, and
Well, that's that's
who are the
exactly
people
it.
who are the people who are obliged? Is it the people who own the land, who own the property, who pay the taxes there? Right,
Yeah.
something to think about for sure.
Yeah, it's 100%. It's accurate. And I think as most Canadian policies right now, it's us. We are the obliged. We will carry the burden
Yeah.
in
Oh
some way,
yeah.
shape, or form.
It's like death by a million cuts. It's just one more little hoop to jump through over and over and over again that they keep setting up.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's move on to my other topic of the day, which is have you filled up your gas tank recently?
No, but I have showings in so I live in Vaughan. I have showings in Oshawa and then Aurelia and then Oakville in the next couple of days. So yes,
Enjoy.
I will be soon. And I just got a newer, nicer car, and it takes 91 now. So just got
No.
getting rinsed on that. Yeah, first world problems. Yeah.
Oh, no. You're going to be hitting like $2 a liter for sure when
Yeah,
you go fill up.
yeah. And I just got back from Florida where it's like I think gas is like 40% of what we pay. Like it's like a staggeringly lower amount. And it's not just
Yeah.
gas, right? Like gas from my car, right? It's like fuel is a primary input of any economy. It is the thing that gets you from point A to point B. And not just you, but everything that you buy, everything that you consume, right? It's
Yeah.
consuming fuel.
Yeah.
And we're just taxing that at the source
I have bad
because
news.
we need to be climate leaders.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Anyways.
Yeah, no kidding. Especially right now when like that's the least of our like all taxes
Yeah, oh,
should
yeah,
be removed.
the least of our problems, and to
Yeah.
the extent that you disagree with that is the
Yeah.
extent to which you are completely deluded, totally out to lunch. Just yeah. Anyways, probably not even listening to this in the first place if you tend to
This
disagree with
is
that. But
valid. People that
anyway,
listen to podcasts like this are probably actually trying to like, have some common sense left.
yeah.
Everyone else is on a different. You'd be listening to The View right now. You'd be watching The View or CNN in your living room if you were on the other end of this. But basically, what I want to get into is so on that note with gas is what's happening in Iran because that's extremely relevant and it's going to affect a lot. So you're already seeing it at the gas pump, which was my first point. But basically, we all know we've seen the headline: U.S. moves into Iran. We're dropping bombs. We're blowing stuff up. In retaliation of that, they've basically Iran has taken the suicide pill, so to speak. It's going to hurt them and the rest of the world, but they've been aggressively attacking ships moving through the Strait of Hormuz, which is this choke point that runs basically right through Iran's main control territory. They have pretty much held a grip on it forever, and something like 20% of the world's oil supply flows through that strait. And they are now sinking indiscriminately any boat that moves through. And so it's effectively closed. And so 20% of the world's oil supply is now not going to happen or going to be much more expensive to route around that strait, which is affecting everything. And so that's why you're already seeing price at the pump go up. We're basically touching $100 a barrel US, which means in Canadian dollars, we're something like $135 a barrel, which is absolutely insane. It's been a while since we've seen that, and like gas at the pump, depending where you're filling up, is somewhere between $1.35 and even $1.50 for regular in some cases, like in Bradford. For some reason, Bradford, Ontario has the highest gas prices on earth. I don't know why. You got to fill up anywhere else but Bradford. But it's affecting that. But
Really
more
interesting.
importantly, it's hitting like the entire value chain. So this is going to affect, okay, context. Everything right now in Canada is super expensive, right? Crazy inflation, groceries are high, oil is high. Everything is going to go higher because of oil. Like your food gets to the grocery store with trucks that now are paying a lot more for gas, building materials, all the pro formas on like a new development condo right now, an apartment building, and it has gone up. It's going to cost you way more money to build now because everything is an oil derivative or driven by oil. All your transportation, all your trades, all your building materials, all related to oil. So the longer this stays, the worse inflation we see, which also means the Bank of Canada is going to have a very big problem on their hands. The economy is already cracking. Nobody can afford anything. But if inflation continues, do they have to raise rates to offset that inflation? But how do you raise rates in an economy that no one can already afford anything? And so this oil issue and what's happening in Iran right now seems far away, but it's not.
No, it's again, it's the primary input of any economy, right? So literally any good or service that is produced at some point is influenced by the price of oil, right? And so literally everything is downstream of that. So it's it's like any like worldwide global headlines you read and you just go, so now how am I, a middle class individual in a country on the other side of the earth, how am I getting screwed by this? There's your answer, right? Do we know like how, like, is this a temporary thing? Is this uptick gonna last for a long time? Because when the Russia-Ukraine war broke out, I think the effect on gas price was even worse. Just like the like default fuel price at the pump in, let's say, in southwestern Ontario or whatever was probably, I think there were days where it was over $2 a liter. I think it was like 202, 205 some days.
Yeah, like generally that
But it,
any
but it only
uncertainty.
lasted like what, like a couple of months or
Yeah,
something like that. It wasn't too crazy.
natural gas got hit the most, especially if you were in Europe and you were dependent on that huge natural gas supply out of Russia. They turned off all the pipelines, blah, blah, blah. Oil gets hit as a result of uncertainty and also increased demand. But this is much more structural because obviously the Middle East is one of the largest producers of oil. And that oil from the Middle East is flowing particularly through that exact strait, which is now closed. So the question of how long does this go on for is a question of how quickly does the US take out the Iranian regime? So long as Iran is controlling that strait and can basically blow up boats, which they've lost their whole navy, by the way. Like Iran's lost like 90% of their major military navy ships have all been sunk by the US government, by the US military, I should say. But it doesn't take a lot to like sink random tankers. Like they have a ton of drones. Iran's known for their stockpile of endless drones, which are cheap. You put explosives, you fly them into the side of a boat and the boat sinks. Like that's what they're doing. And so long as they can keep doing that in that area and they're supported by endless terrorist groups that they funded for the last like 40 years, so long as they can keep blowing up boats in that strait, prices will continue to go up. And on top of that, a lot of these retaliatory strikes. So not only is Iran's getting bombarded, their oil reserves, their everything are getting destroyed. So that's removing product from the market. But then their counterattacks on neighbors like Saudi Arabia, they're targeting massive oil depots all over the Middle East. So they're intentionally trying to destroy oil reserves and close oil supply as their counter to the US of like, we're going to choke what you need the most to make you feel the pain where you live, right? And so, yeah, the question of how long this lasts is how quickly do we end this war? And so Trump's getting fairly aggressive. And this is why. This is something that he has to now finish, because if we don't finish it, it will drag on. And this systemically will create issues in our economy that we can't, like, this is the worst time this to have happened. Like, absolutely worst time. We already can't afford anything. And this is going to make
the U.S.
everything go even higher.
midterms around the corner, right? Trump's obviously a very economics first guy, or at least he and especially in like a lot of those like traditional metrics, those are the ones that I think he really sweats over, right? So like price of gas, right? Like, and yeah, just even tying it back to us sitting here as Canadians, like, what does this mean for us? I'm sure you've seen it. Every mortgage broker on the planet has been like, lock in right now. Like, if you're buying in the next 3 months, get pre-approved and lock in your rate right now, because they are just about with certainty, all rates are about to go up because of that. Again, the input cost, the primary input cost, everything is about to get more expensive. Less things are going to pencil. Risk tolerance is about to go down.
Yeah, but the
From
terrifying
us,
part
to the
of that,
banks, to everybody.
yeah, and I see that. And it's like, but I don't understand how it's going to work in practice, because mortgage delinquencies are already at record highs. So like more people than ever can't pay their mortgage. Foreclosures are at record highs, right? So more people are losing their homes. The more people than ever are living off a credit card right now. We have the highest debt to GDP basically in like the G20. So the whole economy is like barely hanging on. How do you increase rates? Like it'll destroy the economy, because the inflation is not because there's more demand. Like, this is the problem. Normally they hike rates to offset inflation to try to cool the inflation, but that assumes that there's more people competing for the same basket of goods. Like, there's just a lot of money flowing through the economy, buying a lot of stuff, and so it's inflating, and we got to suppress that. This is not that kind of inflation. This is inflation because supply is being choked off. Like, we're just not getting enough of anything, and everything is too expensive to make. But if you increase rates, everything just gets more expensive. I don't even know. Like, they're at a very odd point in the economy right now. That's why that whole thing is going to be one of our topics today, which is the next topic, which this might bleed into, is that's why the Bank of Canada is saying this is not an economic cycle. This is not just like a recession. This is a structural change in the Canadian economy for a lot of reasons, which we'll talk about. But I don't think that structural change, this problem, is going away anytime soon.
Yeah, I think people are waking up to realize that we've truly entered a new era, coming out of the COVID lockdowns, all of the money printing that took place then, the shock to the interest rates that took place over that period of time, and like how uniquely positioned we are. Again, the age we are, the cities we occupy, the job that we have where we're interacting with different people, learning their finances intimately, assisting them with really, really important decisions that they make long term. You even have the government, which is like, in what circumstance are they going to come out and say it themselves? But they're coming out and saying Canadians essentially need to get used to a lower standard of living, a lower quality of life.
Yeah,
If
which is
they're
literally
saying, like, if they're saying it, like, is there anybody who's who you would hope would say it less?
yeah.
Like, and so yeah, it's just it's a bleak position. Like, even when I'm working with buyers right now, mortgage rates aside for a second, I remind people that, like, we're in a buyer's market. It's probably going to be sustained for some time. I think that's the sentiment amongst literally everybody. Correct me if I'm wrong, but do you hear anyone saying in 6 months, like, buy now because it's gonna rip, right? Like, I just ask different people, right? When they ask me, like, is now a good time to buy? Is later a good time to buy? I'm like, can you name me one tailwind, one positive thing structurally that this economy has going for it? Not you, like, maybe you're in a good industry, maybe you're set for promotion, maybe like you're making more money, maybe you're investing well, whatever. But like, structurally, as a whole, the entire economy, the average person, the middle class,
Yeah.
what do we have
Well,
going for us right now?
nothing. I mean, that's why I've been saying for
Like, can we
like
name,
years.
like, just thought activity? Can we name one thing?
No, I mean, not for the average person. No, like
You,
buying a
you
home, I
you
don't
could
think.
say, like, maybe increased immigration creates pressures for certain industries to
No,
produce more. I don't know.
I think
I'm genuinely trying to think, like, what is one tailwind we have? A
no.
lot of the things that we have going for us are things that we've, like, locked ourselves out of, right? It's our resources, it's our land. I don't know. And like I intentionally, because it's so easy to be like black pilled, as they say these days. It's very
Yeah.
easy to like fall into a trap of a little bit of despair when you think about the state of things, and not even the state of things right now, which are something of its own, but where things are heading and how quickly we're heading in that direction. But like, try to think positively. Like what do we have going for us?
Water.
We have water, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I like not to doom and gloom, but like, yeah, as an individual that is invested in residential real estate, like as your home, you've bought a home or you want to buy a home. What are the tailwinds for you? Nothing right now except for undersupply. There's going to be significant undersupply over the next few years. There just won't be enough built. And the
Well, what
question
is
is,
that
will there be
predicated
enough
on?
people
Is
with
that just
money left?
predicated on immigration, population growth?
I don't
Like
know.
when people
Depends
say
if that's corrective.
undersupply, that means over demand, right? And where's the
Yeah.
demand coming from? It's from people who want to buy homes. Are we even like is immigration still ripping the way it was in 2022, 2023? Because if you asked anyone back then, they would say, yeah, like we're just pumping this place to no end. Like there are like too many people here for the amount of homes that we have, right?
Well, it's continuing again, which maybe is a topic for another podcast, but they just struck another deal with India, which will increase immigration again, likely. Of course, they're saying of highly trained people and trades that can contribute to the Canadian economy, although I highly doubt that will be the case at all, because it never is. That's always the cover story. We're bringing in doctors and engineers. Well, where are they going? Because they're not coming here. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Let's not
I,
make it
I don't know. I
depressing.
don't know where that undersupply metric comes from, especially if the economy is going to become that bad. And like people will continue to immigrate here, and that's great. Whatever, so be it. But like, if the word on the street is that this place isn't very fruitful to be in anymore, like why would you immigrate here?
Yeah. Well, it does sound doom and gloom. I'm hopeful that there is change that happens that impacts this, because obviously we're in this space and we have families here and we have business here. Like I think there are things. It's just it depends how those like the biggest comforting factor is a lot of the same people that are pushing policy right now that seems destructive. Like there's the joke of Mark Carney working for Brookfield and all this. Brookfield owns a lot of real estate, a lot, and they're invested in a lot of companies that own a lot of real estate. And so I don't think they're stupid. I think they're just trying to figure out how to get more real estate into their hands and out of our hands. But they wouldn't do that if they didn't think there was structural value in that long term. Right. And so just to not make it super negative, I think there will still be undersupply just because we already have undersupply. We just haven't built enough. And we've stopped building completely about 2 years ago. Like last year, there was almost no new construction. So even if we have modest immigration, a few 100,000 a year, it's going to be more than that. But even at a few hundred, we already don't have enough. Not condos. I think condos are going to suffer for another 7, 8, 9 years.
As they
There
should.
was oversupply in condos, but if you look at
There's still
detached home housing
oversupply,
starts,
and everything that's been built in the last 5 years and everything that is being built right now is such complete flaming garbage that
crap. Yeah,
it deserves to
yeah,
suffer. And like, I'm not in the industry, so I'm not going to pretend I like in the industry of developing condos specifically. So I'm not going to pretend I know everything. I know that these guys have to make money at the end of the day, and like they are like if there's a demand for something, they're going to build it and they're going to make money off
yeah,
it,
yeah.
whatever. But like again, from the overlaying of the cultural perspective on top of it, a lot of the stuff that's getting built right now is not desirable. It is worse than what we've built in the past. It is so much less functional, and there's truly like a spiritual component of this when you go to these new developments and you see these new builds and these new master planned communities, 2 bedrooms in 550 square feet, 3 bedrooms in like 650 square feet. It's like there's something that's like my heart aches when I walk into these things. Like my like there's something in my soul that's like there's something wrong about all of this. Like this is not the product of the first world.
No,
This
because
is
there is.
not
Yeah, there is.
this is not a future that we should be aspiring towards. Like this is awful. This is so bad. So yeah.
No, I totally agree. And I made actually the last time we ran this podcast and was going hard like a couple years ago, I had a clip that went super viral, and it was me talking about this is why I'm so bullish on detached homes for
The
all those
detached does
reasons.
this. Yeah, this is a good clip.
Right. And so I had that clip go out, and it was like the whole idea was I said 2, 3 years ago, the best investment you can make if you have to buy a home right now is do whatever you can to get into a detached home.
Because
Because
they're
I
not
said they
building
would
any more of them.
at the least hold their value the most. And they have like, so I'm in Bradford, our neighbor. So the builder of our entire subdivision, the builder didn't sell 2 homes. They sold them, but those 2 people didn't close. Okay. My neighbor just went on the market. So they just listed that vacant house that's never been moved into. They just listed it a week and a half ago. It sold 3 days later for full ask. This is a
Nice.
detached home off to 400 in Bradford, because
Price
there
is
are
good.
no other. There's like 3 new ones for sale right now. Other than if you want a smaller home, an older home, there's a little bit more of that. But in a constrained market like Bradford, there's only so many detached homes, and there are no new ones coming. There is nothing else being built there right now. And so that was my whole theory, right? Like condos are oversupplied, detached homes were not. And especially with immigration, that actually is where a lot of them, when they're coming with families and then their parents come in and they're a whole big, like 20 of them come in, they're looking for detached homes with multiple levels that they can have multiple families living in, and they're making it affordable because they're splitting the cost. And so there's demand on that product for sure.
That's actually a really good point because of the way that our citizenship rules work now. Like there's like if you're a Canadian citizen, you can just immediately, I don't know the exact verbatim language used, so, grain of salt here, but, if you're a citizen, you can immediately just like pass it on to your grandparents, to your cousins, like no questions asked, just like fly right over, like you're just as Canadian as the rest of us, and you have all the rights and all the ability to stay indefinitely, use all the public services, etc. Right? And so, yeah, like if that is going to be a trend, and that is going to be a big source of immigration, especially from, let's say, places where the dominant culture may be intergenerational households, which is not necessarily the norm here, right? But if that is going to continue to increase as a trend, yeah, absolutely, those homes with the bigger square footage that are detached, that are more, let's say, not 3 bedrooms, but like 5 bedrooms or more, let's say, right? Like stuff like that is going to go right up.
Yeah. I mean,
Stuff
luckily they
with the basement as opposed to like the stacked townhouse, right?
100%. And
Room for the laneway suite, the garden suite, stuff like that, right? Just packing people in like shrimp, or rather sardines.
if you look at any builder right now, find anyone within an hour of the GTA building large detached home communities. They're just not there. They don't pencil.
Well,
And so
there's also, to my knowledge, there's also municipal and provincial pressures put on them, right? Like they have, is it almost like a quota essentially, where it's like
density.
if you're gonna develop a plot of land, there's like a formula or a calculation or some kind of rules or stipulations that's like, okay, go ahead, but you have to build this much, brackets or air quotes, affordable housing, right? So a portion of that development for, let's say, your 100 houses that you're going to build, or 100 houses that will be built on this plot of land, a certain amount of them have to be affordable homes. And again, whatever the governing body's definition of an affordable home is, right? So could be the stacked town, could be the town, could be the multi-level condo, right? Like whatever that is.
Yeah, well, almost every basically incentive right now at every level. So whether you're looking at your financing or you're looking at planning departments in the municipality, which are backed by ultimately provincial programs, all of the programs that are incentivizing construction right now anywhere are all based around density and affordability. So
I
how can we
hate
get
that word with a passion. I hate
right?
density. Anybody that talks about density as like a positive thing, immediately disregard. Go somewhere else. Go be dense somewhere else. I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't
And
need
so
that.
they've been very active. And so there's more like the one you're referring to, there's one called the Building Faster Fund, which is basically municipal incentives that are coming from the province. So they're pushing the province is pushing the municipality to basically increase as much real density as they can quicker. So approve permits faster, building permits for triplexes, fourplexes, multifamily, more housing starts. They've already actually awarded something like $280 million to municipalities in bonuses. It doubles their funding from the provincial government, all this stuff. So basically, if you're a municipality and you want to keep getting money from the province, you got to hit your density targets and your speed to build, like your shovels in the ground, like permit to shovel in the ground speed. So there's a lot of that. It's through multiple programs. Like they have I'm opening up, I have Perplexity running in the background now, but like they have Bill 23. So they had passed in 2022 the Build More Homes Faster Act, which was the whole as of right thing. So if you had any like infill lot or single family home in Toronto or certain regions, you could build up to 3+1 units on any single family lot, and no one could say anything about it. Like it was going to be automatically approved so long as the building permits and drawings are approved. They wouldn't stop it. There was no rezoning, there was no variance. You could just do it as of right. So that helped with that too. And then there's all kinds of programs around like transit regions, which I've seen like around GO stations and anywhere there's like high density transit, they're massively increasing building density in those pockets as well. How many people can we get around the GO train that don't have to buy cars, especially because a lot of the immigrants coming in and don't have cars. Then they have like all kinds of DCs, like development charges. I was gonna say DCs, but for everyone else, development charges that they're doing freezes and cuts on. But a lot of that is like for dedicated rentals, which goes hand in hand with the whole CMHC programming. They also have like all kinds of stuff for not for profits. Like you'd be basically the less money you make as a developer and the more units you build in the smaller space, the more money you get. I just finished a church conversion. I bought this old church, which could not be used as a church anymore anyway. And it was run down completely. We renovated it and we sold it to ultimately a developer. However, the developer is going to rent this thing out for like 4 years, but they're going to build affordable housing. They're a charity developer. So all their money comes from charity donations. Then the municipality gives them grants, and then the province gives them grants and tax abatements, and then the federal government gives them more. And so because they're a not-for-profit slash, like, I think they're actually a full registered charity. Like, I was going through their list of incentives, like no HST, they're getting grants, they're getting bonuses, they get tax abatements, they get development charge waivers. Like, they're building 40, 50% cheaper than if you were doing a for-profit building. And so all the programs are for that. There's almost nothing else for anything outside of that.
Yeah, it's an interesting picture that's being painted of the future, because you have like the native stock here, people born and raised here, like quality of life is just going down, like simply
Yeah.
put. Okay, so we're building affordable housing, but simultaneously we're like radically increasing the population.
Yeah.
Entirely through immigration. Like our birth rate is like it's pretty quite far below replacement levels. What is it, like 1.4 or something like that? Whatever it is. So we're always going to go back to politics. We're always going to go back to the decision making of our the people in charge. But it's a
Well,
shame.
yeah.
Like the whole system is rigged to be built to incentivize certain things. Frankly, to be quite honest, for the majority of people like you and I and most average people watching this, it is less desirable for you. For you, the person who not only, let's say, grew up here, born here, have paid into the system, have a stake in the future, we also don't have any other options. Like, you're not from
Yeah.
another place you could go back to. You're
Yeah.
not, you don't have a root elsewhere. You don't have the luxury of like dual citizenship at the snap of a finger or something close to it, let's say. Right. And so I hate to just bang the drum constantly. I'm like a one-track record today, but
That's why
where she goes.
you have to vote. Vote.
Step in the right direction, I guess.
Card carrying conservative. I mean, everyone says that, like, politics won't save you, or like the government's not going to save you. And but in a society the way ours works, it's your only option, because the individual in this country does not really have any power. It's these people in power that run the government. And ultimately, none of them will be perfect. They all have issues, but we have to move away from these massive destructive policies, at least, to less destructive policies. And that's already a stepping stone. Like, we don't need the government to be perfect, but we need them to stop actively, like, focusing their effort on the destruction of the average person in this country. Like, at least if they just stop doing that, we'd be in a better place. And that's why voting is so important, because ultimately that's where change happens. Whether it's like your local elections, your mayors, your MPs, your MPPs, whatever it is, like, you got to vote and see that shift. Because if we don't get different people in power, and I argue how hard that will be, because it seems like we no longer, that's another episode, but apparently you don't vote anymore. They just switch sides. You can vote for whoever you want, and then the Liberal government just pulls that MP to their side, and suddenly they have a majority.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, you vote, and then they just like buy politicians and incentivize them to come to the other side of the floor, and suddenly, like, what the people voted for is not what they got effectively.
Yeah, that should be the most illegal thing. That should be the highest form of treason, by the way. The whole concept of democracy, you're forcing us here. It's not like the US. We don't vote for the prime minister. We vote for the MP for our region. So the whole idea is, like, I want a conservative government, I'm going to vote the conservative MP, not because I like that MP per se. It's just, if I want a conservative government, I have to vote for that MP. Then you from the other party just steal that MP, and now they're representing the Liberals, and my vote is supporting Liberals, which I didn't vote for. So how is that democracy? That actually makes zero sense. Not only does it make zero sense, it's like literally criminal. That should never be possible in a democratic society. It's blatant fraud.
It's bleak. It's unfortunate.
But we'll go into that one.
Like, if you're like, I'm just curious, like, if you're that politician, you're that person who crossed the floor.
They're wild.
What do you say to your constituents? Like, what do you say to the people who voted you in?
You ignore them. That's
who
what they
got
did.
you your job? Who got you your job? Right? Like, if the lady was in an NDP riding and then she goes and switches.
Yes, the recent one.
Yes, and now she's under the Liberals. I guess that's how it works, right? And so, like, I guess, like, what's your stance? So we're joining forces to the greater good. We're making.
No, they just lie. They just lie. No, there's something they want, and Carney promises them that. Yeah, I'll let you do A, B, C if you come do this. And they do that. Or they have blackmail on them, which they probably do, because, by the way, that lady that just switched from NDP to Liberal, look into her history and her son. Her son 2 or 3 years ago, guess what happened to him?
What a
stand-up guy? He was arrested for basically child, I don't want to say it so we don't get banned off YouTube, but PORN, on his devices. He was arrested. He went through trial. Apparently, it was magically dropped, and now he
Mm,
switched over to Liberal Party. So I'm not saying it's that, but it's just like these people. There's more to them. They're not just like these innocent NDP. Oh, I'm just doing this to help you. No, you're not. You have either personal agendas you're trying to push forward, or you have personal liabilities you're trying to protect. And someone's
mm,
promising you the ability to do that, and you don't care about your constituents. You don't care at all. They're just going to ignore the phone calls, the emails. They won't be in their office, just like the guy in Markham. And you're going to do what benefits you because you're corrupt, and that's the problem. They don't care what their constituents think,
that's crazy.
right? But anyway, on a positive note, we have to find a positive note. All that said, so we covered like more or less, we kind of went off on a tangent, but we covered more or less the three main topics that I wanted to cover, which was what do we start with? We started with,
We had the Vancouver First Nations
oh, yeah.
title deal, the rights
Yeah.
recognition framework.
Yeah, so we started with the Vancouver thing. We touched the Iran thing. We touched the BoC. We didn't go as deep into it as I wanted to, but the whole like structural versus cyclical and how basically things are going to be more expensive for longer. And
Hmm.
then we touched on this a little bit, the political corruption, which we'll have to go deeper. But all that to say, I want to be hopeful and I want to like end on a positive note. With all that going on, I do still think with great uncertainty comes great opportunity. And I can tell you the story of many people in business, but specifically real estate, that have made billions in markets that were bleaker, far bleaker than this. And it's usually the people that run towards the problem and the risk
Mm.
that find the opportunity versus the ones that completely run away from it. I think there's still huge opportunity, especially if you're a real estate investor right now and you can be very strategic and your time horizon is long enough. There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of foreclosures, a lot of like people losing like commercial properties up for renewals. They can't renew them. They're losing them. Power of sales, foreclosures, fire sales. Like there's a lot of stuff going on that if you have money and patience, this is a buying opportunity that has not existed in like 40 years.
Absolutely. No, 100%. And I think it is a good positive note to end on is that even for me that does a lot of resale residential, I've been doing this for 5 years. This is the best time to buy in the last 5 years. The prices are the lowest that they've been. Rates are higher, but assuming you've saved or you've invested, like these are the markets where you make money because you're buying low. Rates are not the highest they've ever been, of course, right? In like recent memory, but you're getting in for a low price, and in a world where you refi eventually for a lower rate, like you're laughing. Like it's actually great news. So in that regard, yeah, it is the best time. And the other thing is too, like you look at the Canadian economy, like you simply have to have assets. You simply have to have owners, especially now that we've printed a third of the currency in the last 5 years. Like you need to own things that will inflate and appreciate with time. The unfortunate reality, going back to something negative, but it's going to turn into a positive thing. It's like the K-shape economy, right? It's like increasingly in our society as the middle class gets shaved away into non-existence and you have the haves and the do not haves, the have nots, right? You just got to find your way to become a have. And how do the haves become haves? They buy things, they own things, they ride the wave of appreciation, they can invest, they can park capital. But you need to fight tooth and nail to get on that roller coaster in the first place. And there really is no better time than in a down market to
Yeah.
put your money where your mouth is, buy things and ride that wave. It's like the only way up, right? Like especially like if you're like an average intelligence person and you want to have above average returns, that's how you do it.
Yeah. I like on the residential side, I always tell people like don't buy a house as an investment. But if you need to buy a house for whatever your personal family reason or whatever is, now's a good time to buy one just
Yeah.
because they are cheaper than ever and they've been
Yeah.
falling for years. We're getting to the point in a lot of markets where we're actually below replacement cost. You couldn't buy the land today and build that house for less.
Yeah.
That's
Crazy.
always a good point to get in at. And for
Yeah.
sophisticated investors, it is a good time to invest in more complex assets. Like I'm a big fan of commercial, which you know, because I hate residential tenants. I don't want to deal with that ever again. But commercial
Especially
assets right
here.
now,
Yeah.
dude,
In Ontario, at least. Yeah.
yeah, definitely not in Ontario, but it's a generational buying opportunity right now in commercial. I'm telling you, like when I got into commercial, I was looking for investments maybe like 3, 4 years ago. I could find nothing on market, nothing off market, like nothing traded. Not that there was literally nothing, but it was just very hard. And when you did
Yeah.
find stuff, the prices were absurd because everyone was like, yeah, my crappy retail plaza in the corner, this is worth X amount because it could be a high rise. I'm going to sell to a developer. Well, guess what? Developer doesn't want your retail spot anymore. So now the market is completely shifted. The buying opportunities are there. And honestly, supply has come down on the commercial side. They're not building a lot of new commercial, especially in the pockets that matter, like where I am, Simcoe County. Where do you see new commercial development? It's few and far between from Barrie through Muskokas. They've oversupplied in some cases some industrial closer to the city, but the demand continues for that. Really, it's massive. And so there's opportunity, is my point. And there's a buying opportunity that did not exist. I remember even when I first started even looking at real estate, like probably 10, 12 years ago, I was like, everything is like, how do you buy this stuff now? Everything is just like, everything was going up and up and up and up and up and up. And you just like, this is crazy. And I'm like, when is that correction coming? Because every investor makes your money in the correction. Everybody. Like,
Yeah,
when
there
is
you
the
go.
next one? We're here. This is it. So with all this
Yeah.
negativity to say, be fearful when others are greedy, be greedy when others are fearful. And I think right now others are fearful, and it's time for you to actually start making moves if you plan to. And that's the note I'll leave it on.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's been greater, like there's a lot of uncertainty right now. Another conflict in the Middle East, the AI onslaught that is slowly going to make its way through, the white collar world, even the blue collar world, to a serious extent. The bust following the boom of construction that has taken place over the last couple of years. But it's like, well, those were times of growth. Those were times where people who own things made money. Now's the time where you get in so you can be around for the next boom and take part in that, right? So where are we buying, Darren? What's the commercial play?
100%. Oh, buddy, you know I'm looking. I'm always
Where are
looking at
we
a
where
bunch
are we
of stuff.
going? What are we looking at? You got to tell me, man.
Simcoe County is my market, man. Simcoe County, Simcoe County. There's so much
Yeah.
opportunity up here. There's so much sprawl. There's so many people coming up.
And
This
I
is the
I
way to
will
go.
say I will say firsthand, as someone who grew up in York region, and again I see things through this cultural lens, but it's just like the thing that's on my mind all the time. As I constantly wonder, like, is this the place, now that I have a family, I have a wife and a child, and God willing, more children, is this the place where I want to raise my kids? Is this where they're going to have a similar quality of life that I had? Is that a for sure yes in York region? It's not 100% yes as of right now, right? Where do you go? Do you go south past the border? Do I go west? Or do I go just like a half hour north, 45
Exactly.
minutes north? It's something on my mind quite a bit. So,
And you're not the only
and
one.
I'm not the only one. That's the
Yeah.
other part too. You look at these guys that are selling consultations on how to get your E2 visa into the US, selling the dream of Florida or different like red states in the US, or moving to Alberta or whatever, right? Like people are buying that stuff non-stop. The leads are flowing in for these guys. This is a new economy. How to get out of where you are right now,
Yeah.
because a lot of people who see things the way we do, they it's almost like they're seeing the writing on the walls.
Yeah, and with that too, it's like, the Florida stuff is great and all that, and there's a ton of attention to it, but the reality is 90% of people won't make that move, 10% will. The other 90% will do what humans do, which is take the path of least resistance, which is probably stay here, but move somewhere that feels a little bit better. And that little bit better to me is north. Stay on the 400, stay near transit hubs, and it's going to be Simcoe County. It is already. I see it every day.
Yeah.
And so that's coming. But anyway, dude, it was good having you on. Hopefully, we're going to do a bunch more of these, and people will get to see you more. But I enjoyed the chat. Thank you for going through it,
Thank you, man. It's been a pleasure.
and we'll
Let's make it happen. Let's make this recurring.
yeah, we'll see you on the next one, man.
Cheers.